Breaking news, Jaguars fans, as we have got some news surrounding Brenton Strange and the Jacksonville Jaguars, as both the tight end and Jacksonville have agreed to a contract extension, a 3-year deal worth up to $48 million with $25 million guaranteed. Mike Garafolo of NFL Network was the first to break the news, but we're going to be reacting to it, what this means for the Jaguars, some other extensions that we could potentially see from Jacksonville ahead of the 2026 NFL season, and all things Brenton Strange's contract extension and Jacksonville Jaguars. But this is why you tune into this episode of Jags Now, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. Make sure you use code HMA to get $50 in lineups whenever you play your first $5 lineup. Man, wow. Okay. Was hoping that they would get this done in terms of Jacksonville getting this contract extension with Brenton Strange. He now signs a 3-year deal, or 3-year extension, up to $48 million with $25 million guaranteed per his agents Jim Ivler, Roggio, and Jon Perzley. Hopefully I didn't butcher those names too badly there. This was according to Mike Garafolo, and this is huge for Jacksonville. We had talked about it in a previous episode in terms of contract extension candidates, kind of after minicamp and just seeing how things went, that Brenton Strange was somebody that I was hoping that the Jaguars would extend. He was number 2 on my list for Jacksonville to kind of prioritize in extending, and they're able to get it done. Credit to James Gladstone, credit to Liam Cohen, and the entire Jaguars front office for getting this done, because I think Brenton Strange is a tight end that you really want to build around and really want to be able to trust. And I think he's earned that from Jacksonville. He was a guy that was willing to mix it up in the run blocking game and pass blocking game. I think graded out per PFF, which I get it, PFF's not everything, above a 60 in both categories. So he was able to contribute as a blocker, but also was really productive as a pass catcher for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it was something that I think that both sides wanted to make sure they got done for the future. I mean, Strange had 46 receptions, 540 yards, 3 touchdowns on about almost 12 yards per catch. He was able to do so many different things for Liam Cohen in this offense. And I think he really earned the trust of Trevor Lawrence and his coaching staff to where they locked this extension in. This, to me, was a no-brainer extension for Jacksonville. Obviously, Brenton Strange happy that he is going to stay in Duval County, but the Jaguars, people will sit there and say, and maybe from the outside looking in, didn't the Jaguars draft a tight end in the second round of the 2026 NFL draft? Didn't they add another tight end on day 3? And maybe they started to question this decision. If you are questioning this decision, it's because you haven't been paying attention to the effect that Brenton Strange has had on this offense. And, his contract itself, we'll kind of, dive into here in a little bit, just in terms of like where he ranks in terms of the NFL's tight ends. But from a pure fit, he's clearly your tight end number 1. You obviously have Nate Borgature, who you hope to develop some level of receiving skill set, but he's going to be kind of your blocking tight end that you pair with Brenton Strange. And then you obviously got Tanner Koziel, and then you've got Quentin Morris as well that you can also build around him. So Jacksonville has a really strong tight end room, if I do say so myself, and then you lock in your number 1 tight end for the foreseeable future. To me, this is a win-win for all parties, and I'm incredibly happy for Brenton Strange that he was able to get this deal done. I was happy for Jacksonville as well that they were able to lock in the former Penn State Nittany Lion. Now he's going to stay in Jacksonville for 3 more years, and I just want to get you guys' reaction. If you had to grade the Brenton Strange extension, A, B, C, D, or F, like you're back in school, let me know down in the comment section below what grade you would give this 3-year, $48 million extension with $25 million guaranteed. Let me know down in the comment section. And we are going to talk about where Strange, that extension ranks in the NFL, what it can mean for other Jaguars extension candidates here in just a moment. But we would not be able to do this episode of Jags Now if it wasn't for our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. The big soccer tournament is here. Baseball is well underway, along with a ton of other sports that you can cash in with on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Prize Picks is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. And the app is really easy to use. Just pick more or less on a few player stats to lock in your lineup. You guys can even follow me on the app to see all of my lineups at ColonBro21, including this lineup that I've got on screen for you guys. I'm big into the soccer tournament, man. I think it's been one of the more electrifying just tournaments that we've had in a while, and I'm a huge fan, and I've been heavily invested. And this is what I've got: a little 3-pick power play, 10 to win $35 here. Jonathan David, the attacker for Canada, he's been not afraid to try to attempt to score some goals. So I got more than 1.5 shots. That is a goblin play, so it lowers the payout, but it's more likely to get the projection correctly. And then I got Vinicius Jr. You've got a little lightning play here, which lowers the projection from what it normally was. I took the more on 1.5 shots. I also think he's going to find the back of the net. Give me the more on a half a goal there. That's a demon play. So that's a $10 lineup to win 35 there. New user offer, guys. Download the Prize Picks app today with the link in the comments and the description, and use code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Shout out to Prize Picks for always holding it down. Just more kind of thought and conversation around the Brenton Strange extension here. Credit to Over the Cap for these numbers. So I'm just going to be kind of looking on screen here. So with that $25 million in guaranteed money, that slots him in right behind Mark Andrews currently, who on his contract with the Baltimore Ravens, he is making $25.9 million guaranteed. So that ranks Strange 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He is the 8th highest in terms of tight end, in terms of guaranteed money. So that's a big number that, a lot of times when you see these contracts kind of come out initially, a lot of people will look at the big number, right? 3 years worth up to $48 million. What you really want to pay attention to is the years, which in reality, a 3-year extension is more like a 2-year extension, because the way that NFL teams kind of front load these contracts, it's really guaranteed through, whatever the contract is in terms of the extension. It's usually that minus one. So if it's a 4-year extension, it's really a 3-year extension, with that 4th year not having a lot of guaranteed money on the back end. So for Strange, it's really a 2-year deal. And then you take the guaranteed money, which is the absolute, which is $25 million. So to me, I think that's a really good deal for Brenton Strange. He's a young tight end who, if I'm just not mistaken, he's 25 years old. He'll turn 26 during the NFL season this upcoming year in 2026. But you get a guy, like I said, who does it all, who does a little bit of everything for Jacksonville, both in the receiving department and in the blocking department. An unselfish player, willing to do the dirty work. By all accounts, seems like a really good locker room fit, and somebody that you want to keep on this team moving forward. To me, this is a win-win for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, we kind of talked about it on previous episodes, some other potential extension candidates. Number one still for me, and this was the number one that I had in that episode, is Parker Washington. I think the Jaguars would be smart to try to extend him before this upcoming season, because I think he's going to have even a better year than he did in 2025, when he kind of really popped off that final bit of the last season. Could he potentially look to get an extension? I also mentioned Antonio Johnson as a potential option for the Jacksonville Jaguars, as he is a guy that really thrived in Anthony Campanelli's defense and could 100% be somebody that the Jaguars look to extend. So keep him in mind. Devon Hamilton, could you potentially see, making a Jaguar for life offer from Jacksonville and just keeping him in-house? And the way he's been kind of tutoring Albert Regis, I don't know how likely that could necessarily be, but that's something to kind of keep in mind here. And then somebody that I think is less likely, but could potentially be somebody to keep an eye on for in terms of an extension, would be Ventrell Miller, just because that Foye Oluokun, the Jaguars could look to pivot off this offseason, and maybe they want to lock in one of their younger linebackers who is set to have a bigger role this year. So any one of those guys I could see getting another extension. Brenton Strange was somebody that I've been kind of pounding the table for in terms of getting this money from Jacksonville. And I think it's a really smart contract done by James Gladstone and the Jacksonville Jaguars front office. You can't already tell. I'm a fan of the move. And I think that you lock in a guy who, again, maybe the stats don't blow you away as much as some of the bigger name tight ends in the NFL, like a Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, or whatever. But I think from a complete tight end standpoint, there's not much you want in a tight end more than what Brenton Strange gives you. So huge fan of the move. Again, let me know your grades down below, A, B, C, D, or F, for this Brenton Strange extension. And that is going to conclude this episode of Jags Now, presented by our wonderful friends at Prize Picks. Again, subscribe, turn on your notifications to never miss a beat when it comes to Jaguars news. We're already getting you content about this news here. We're going to get this on the channel. We got a short coming up, all this, that, and the other around the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we have got you covered 365 days a year. Until next time, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Peace out, and thank you for tuning into this episode of Jags Now.